Wholesalers, it's Rob Short, Wholesaler Masterminds, and you may be thinking to yourself, Rob, you're thinking, what do you have besides this amazing podcast? And I'm so glad you asked. Wholesaler Masterminds has an assortment of product and services all designed around the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesaling. As an example, we have coaching services designed to help you power wash your practice, whether you have 2 years or 22 years. We'll offer you speaking live engagements at divisional or national sales meetings. Our scheduling service has dedicated professionals trained in the art of getting you more appointments, Wholesaler Mastermind schedulers. Our Speakers Bureau brings you amazing speakers and processes to get better return on investment out of those speakers. And finally, our partnership, our newest partnership with Allego. If you have Allego and want to get the Wholesaler Masterminds channel on your Allego platform, please let us know. Wholesaler Masterminds, happy to bring you this podcast and so much more. Wholesaler Masterminds, the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesaling. Is it just me? I don't know. Is it just me? Or are you feeling stressed? I mean, there's a lot of reason to feel stressed. You've got things going on the product front. You've got broker-dealer consolidation going on with firms. Compensation plans are likely being tweaked. The entire industry of wholesaling is going through subtle to sometimes not so subtle changes. Oh, yeah. And there's also that thing going on in DC, and I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. You're probably feeling a little more stress courtesy of our politicians in Washington. How are you coping with that stress? What are you doing to perhaps alleviate some of that stress? Oh, I have just the person to help us with that today. Welcome to the only podcast on the planet dedicated to exploring the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesalers and their leaders. This is the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. I'm your host, the founder of Wholesaler Masterminds, Rob Shore. Wholesalers, welcome back to the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. Mary Allen, life coach Mary, has been a friend of Wholesaler Masterminds for 8 years. She's probably thinking, geez, has it been that long? Yes, 8 years. Mary Allen was a neighbor of mine down in Orange County and remains one of America's foremost authorities. She's actually known to many as America's Inner Peace coach. She's author of The Power of Inner Choice. She hosts conversations with the masters, interviewing best-selling authors, speakers, and coaches, including Dr. Wayne Dyer and Carolyn Mace and Byron Katie and Debbie Ford and countless others. For over 15 years, her diverse, high-achieving clients include business owners, professionals, moms, coaches, a couple of billionaires thrown in. She helps people get out of their own way and enjoy exponentially more inner peace by transforming distracting stressors, achieving their goals, and embodying their highest self. Life Coach Mary, welcome back to the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show.
Thank you, Rob. It's great to be back.
It's been a long time.
I know it's been a while, but thank you so much for thinking of me.
I'm delighted to have you here. So I'm reading some of these statistics that you're throwing out, and they're making me more stressed. 77% of people regularly experience physical symptoms caused by stress. 73% regularly experience psychological symptoms caused by stress. And 48% feel their stress has increased over the past 5 years. And that was a statistic prior to our most recent election. Oh, Mary, help.
Pretty crazy, too. We could add some more statistics in that I believe it's like 90% of all illnesses are made worse by stress. Wow. So the statistics, we could keep going. None of them are good.
So it's such a massive undertaking, and depending on your avenue of approach or attack, we could go after this in a few different ways. But I know that your specialization and where you really want to help people get better is this notion of inner peace. And so let's kind of baseline. What does that mean? And you say you want to make it the number one goal. What does it mean, and why should I make it my number one goal?
So such a great question. So what is inner peace? Let's just even start with that. And so let's even just take you, your listeners, right here, me, taking a deep breath and just connecting in to stillness, to the present moment, to what is calm, still, at ease. It's what happens in the absence of a whole lot of thoughts, focusing on your to-do list, lots of things going on here and there, projects and overwhelm and whatever's going on in the news. All this kind of stuff is a distraction to that part of ourselves inside of us that is at peace.
Okay, but I have to ask a question. So, yes. I mean, this is important because I know that I know this audience, and you know this audience, 'cause you know the prototype of a type A sales professional.
I sure do.
Or the entrepreneur or the billionaire you worked with, and you make it sound so approachable and so friendly and easy, and take a moment and take a deep breath, and how do I even get there?
Right. Well, how we get there is even as simple as our breath, and we'll get into that a little bit. But even even people that are busy. I'm a type A person too. When I first heard about, I had a friend of mine that said, it's all on this thing about making inner peace your number one goal. And when I first heard that idea, I was inner peace, inner schmeesh. I'm like, I am too busy. That seems boring. It's unexciting.
I'm too busy to be peaceful.
I'm too busy. I got things to do. Stopping, that felt painful. I imagine there's people listening too. It's peace. It's no, I want more success. I need to get more things off my plate, because I even heard Rachel Ray make a comment that I'm too stressed when I relax, right?
Yeah.
So this is so real, and yet we all have had experiences of peace, and it's my job to get you connected and know that you actually have that ability, and this can be your greatest ally in navigating the craziest, busiest lives. So we've all had an experience of watching a sunset when it's just that moment, or holding a newborn baby, or maybe there's a few folks that do yoga, or even when you're working out or going for a good run, you get that moment of just your mind is not busy, and you're just there, you're present, right? And it is, it's almost so simple. It's no, there has to be more to that. And it's actually, if we can really get that when we are really, really present, and it's we turn down the volume of the mind, which is basically a lot of static, distracting us from really living our best lives. If we can just do that and get present, all of a sudden now we have a greater sense of connection to our intuition, in terms of our ability to focus and make clear decisions, make the right decisions, and help us navigate our crazy busy lives.
All right, so here's the question, though. As we get into this whole notion of the relationship, you say it's the relationship between resistance and stress. And this one is really deep, but it's important. You have a quote in here, and you're going to have to pronounce the thing.
Epictetus?
Epictetus?
Yes.
So that's the deep thinker from very long ago, who said people are disturbed not by a thing, but their perception of a thing.
Yes.
Now, as if we weren't getting woo-woo before.
I know.
So tell me more about this, and how the relationship between resistance and stress. I need to understand this.
Yeah. Well, think about it for a minute. Anything that stresses you out, maybe there's lots of forms of stress, right? There's worry, there could be fear and uncertainty and impatience. And when you think about all those things that don't feel so good, that kind of get lumped into the sense of stress, think about it as we're pushing against something. Resistance. Resistance is just a great catch-all word. We push against really the reality of life, whatever is going on, how much is on our to-do list, we push against that. We're in resistance to it. When we are, with time, not being able to get as much jammed into a 8-hour or 12-hour day as we would like, we feel resistance to, I didn't get more done. So if we can begin, to relax that resistance and just notice, gosh, I'm pushing against everything. Pushing against everything in the news. I'm pushing against all these competing projects, people calling, pushing for your time. If we can just begin to start noticing how we're resisting so many facets of our life, even just that awareness, we can begin to put a little bit of more breathing space into it. I don't know if you had the experience getting ready to go on a vacation, and we try and get so much done right before we go on vacation. We push. But as we get closer, Rob, I don't know if you do this, but then I start taking things off and say, okay, this can wait until, a week from now.
Yep.
This can wait till I get back. And slowly, I feel like the resistance begins to relax because I'm not trying to jam so much in the day.
So part of it, and I want to make sure I'm following you here, because part of it isn't necessarily dismissing the stress.
Right.
But is it living with the stress? Is it just kind of acknowledging that, yep, that's the place I'm in right now. I'm in a high stress mode. So, rather than getting worked up further about the fact that I'm stressed, that I'm just going to, lean into it, if you will.
Partly. It's as we notice that we are stressed, we can begin to get curious about, well, what am I pushing against? Am I trying to make, let's say what we're trying to make sales, we're trying to make a certain commitment by a certain time. It's like we're pushing so hard. If I can just relax a little bit and say, all right, let me just come back in this moment, and kind of get that everything's okay. It's not perfect. Maybe I prefer things different. I'd like to have had more sales, or maybe as things are shaken up in your industry, it's, there's some uncertainty about what's going to come about. But just to step back for a minute and kind of just see if you can find a sense of peace in this moment. Then out of that sense of peace and stillness, or maybe we're not all the way to peace, but let's just say a little bit more relaxed stress, we might get a lot clearer about how to handle some of the challenges that are really nagging at us. Does that make sense?
It does. Now, the third thing you talk about here is to be willing to respond to stress with calm. Now, I don't know about our listeners, but sometimes I respond to stress by screaming in a place where nobody can hear me. Sometimes I respond to stress by larger glasses of wine. There's all kinds of ways that I personally deal with stress. Perhaps wholesalers, you can agree. How do we shift that from this frenetic place of stress and step that down to a place of calm and kind of recircuit how we're feeling?
Right. Well, so if we can flip it around and allow the stress to be a signal of, hey, even taking on as a challenge, can I find peace in this moment? I know it sounds like a crazy thing. I'm all about inner peace, so when I find myself in crazy situations, moving, I think the initial one started when I was moving years ago, and I just was so tired of feeling so stressed during a move that I challenged myself. I'm like, can I actually experience the move in a way where I just stay present, where I'm maybe grateful for all the belongings that I do have and the excitement of moving into a new home, and just keep coming back to just the present moment instead of making it be a stressful experience.
Well, let's unpack that a little bit, because some of what we're talking about here is theoretical, but if you'll permit me, I want to use a little bit about what you told me when we reacquainted. We haven't spoken in a number of years. When we reacquainted,
yeah.
and you mentioned to me that you and your husband and your twins packed up and went to live in Israel for a while.
Yeah.
And how old were the twins?
They were just over 3.
So of course there's no stress involved with that at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. So between, decamping from Southern California, encamping in Israel, and everything that went on in between, I would imagine there was enough stress for, a family of 10, never mind a family of 4. Where did you find how did you find, aside from the fact that, you're America's Inner Peace coach, how did you willingly find the place to not want to scream in a quiet room where nobody can hear you, or not drink the extra large glass of wine? How did you consciously make the decision to say, okay, I need to navigate this differently?
Sometimes enjoy a glass of wine, and that does help sometimes. And it's not that sometimes I scream. In fact, actually, the screaming one is not a bad strategy, because screaming actually moves the emotions and feelings through. It's actually a practice I've done with my kids at bedtime. Like, it was just getting where they were whining all the time. I'm like, all right, let's just get it out of the way. I'm like, we're going to scream at bedtime. We're just going to get it done. And they loved it. They thought it was hilarious. So it's like we just all screamed. I got to kind of get my feelings and emotions expressed. They got theirs. It was fun. You know what? Turned out to be a lot less fussier bedtime as it goes. So, like, that's like a one-moment thing. But to talk about, okay, as a whole, one of the things that really helped with the move is years ago I developed a practice called now practices. And now practices are the practice of being present. And you take something super simple like a shower. We do showers most days. And during that activity, let's say the shower, or it could be driving a car, it could be walking your dog or working out, but during the activity, you practice being present. So you engage the senses and you really slow down that experience of the shower and just make that the focus. So I'm going to be present. I'm going to just get into that experience. When you've built up a little muscle on being present, it does allow you to tap into that muscle when things are more stressful. So, like, true story, we're in the airport, and my husband does not travel well, bless his heart. And, here we are, long lines. This is actually on our return home. And we've got way too many bags. He's completely pissed off at me because way too many bags. My kids have to go to the bathroom, which, of course, the one is closed here. We have to go clear to the other side. But you know what? It's like, in this moment, I could totally choose stress and to be in reaction to my husband, who was literally getting ready to boil, and I could tell he was so upset. Why do we have to take so many bags? We were only here for 4 months, and rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, you know what? It's like, I'm not going there. It's like, it's like I focus on the present moment. I focus on all is going to be well. You know what? We just need to pee. We take things one step at a time. And I literally, it's kind of a funny thing. Make Inner Peace your number one goal, but when you keep making it your goal, then in these crazy situations, it's actually what ends up popping up. So my kids and I, we zipped across the airport, and we had fun. I'm like smiling and laughing. I'm like, all right, this is what we're doing. We have to go to the bathroom. Now we get back. And now we're in this long line. My husband's, grumpy. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not going there. I'm going to have fun.
Doesn't that end up just pissing your husband off?
A little bit. But we kind of have this thing, it's like, Mr. Grumpy's here. But it's like, you know what? You just kind of keep coming back. And ultimately, we got plucked out of the line, and somehow we ended up making our flight. You know what? It all did end up working out. But I think it works out better when at least one of the party is actually at peace.
Well, I can see that, because if both people are freaking out at the same time, it's quite unproductive.
Right.
Let's move on to this mini Inner Peace challenge. Now, I've followed you on Twitter for 8 years, and every once in a while this tweet comes through, and sometimes I'm down for what you're suggesting, and other times I'm too stressed out to even pay attention. I'm like, no. So let's tell the audience what we're talking about. What is that mini Inner Peace challenge, and what do I do?
Yeah, right. It's a quick breathing exercise. We can do it right here.
All right.
We stop. You take a deep breath in. We're going to hold it for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to exhale. And then drop our shoulders. And then we're going to do it again because it feels really good. You can take that deep breath in, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale, drop your shoulders.
You feel better, Bob? Engineer Bob feels better.
Yeah,
does.
I feel better.
I feel
even.
better. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I have to tell you, I learned this little trick at the top of a 30-foot platform in Washington, D.C. It was flying on the trapeze, and I was shaking uncontrollably, and I could not mind over matter it at all. And, of course, bless the instructor's heart up there, he said he did this exact thing. Take a deep breath in, hold 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale, drop your shoulders. And if it works on the top of a 30-foot trapeze platform, it can work in the middle of your afternoon when you have that, feeling of just overwhelm in the afternoon. It works anywhere.
I want to ask you a question about that because Mel Robbins was on the show, and Mel Robbins wrote a book called The 5-Second Rule. So this goes in the opposite direction. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Her premise is scientifically proven that, if you are in any way reluctant or otherwise hesitating to do something, that, to get yourself off the schneid into activity, to get your brain programmed and to stop procrastinating, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 gets you to that pathway to do it. Is it reasonable to assume that the opposite is true, that using this, 1, 2, 3, 4, deep breath, shoulders, release, that it does the same thing for a different malady, if you will, in this case, stress?
Yeah, I think so. But I'll also say this, that when we're stressed, we unconsciously hold our breath a little bit. And when our breathing is not as deep and full, we're just naturally going to feel stressed. So funny thing is, because you talk about Twitter, when I first started doing these little things on Twitter, of course, every time I would post it, I would be doing a breath too. And I started to be where I would do it so often that I started just naturally breathing more deeply in the afternoon to where I didn't have that same stressful experience in the afternoon. I mean, of course, it still happens now. And then, again, when you feel stressed, it can be the invitation to, you know what? I'm going to just take a few deep breaths, see if I can find a little bit more calm here in this moment, kind of a little reset before, all right, now I'm clear. What's really most important on my to-do list? What's really most important on my projects? Or how can I solve this problem? Now a new, fresh idea comes in to help you navigate that.
Let's talk about self-care.
Yeah.
And this is an audience that can't hear enough about self-care because, we work too many hours, we eat too much crappy food, we don't exercise enough, we stay up too late, we maybe have an extra drink. This is a crowd that would not get gold stars for self-care. How do I the attributes I think we're clear on, though, if you want to give us a quick primer on the attributes. So I think this audience knows that they're screwing up by not taking better cares of themselves. But do you have any thoughts about how to break that cycle and start taking better cares of ourselves?
Yeah. Well, so part of it is just knowing that you're making it 20 times harder on yourself by not doing the basic self-care things. So I know we've got type A's here listening in. I know you like the degree of challenge, and there's something kind of cool about mustering through on 3 hours of sleep and making it all happen. But you're making it so much harder on yourself than it needs to be. And especially if you try and find a sense of inner peace when you're eating like crap and not sleeping well, and it just makes it so harder. So I think it starts with really just that decision that you want to live into your highest potential. And I'm telling you, if you take even in, I call it 1 to 3 hours a day where you actually get to focus on fueling yourself. It's happened with all of my clients, all my coaching clients that I've worked with. We set up some daily habits that generally those daily habits are all about self-care, exercise, sometimes meditating, good sleep, good nutrition. I noticed that my clients end up quadrupling their income. One of my clients went from just under $1 million to $4.5 million in about a year and a half. And I guarantee he upped his self-care big time. And same thing, I can give you case after case after case where when you give yourself more energy, and that's what comes by getting more sleep and getting those workouts, getting some good cardio in, having veggie smoothies instead of lattes. Really makes a difference. And I'll tell you, Rob, I don't know if you have one yet, but the Fitbit.
No, God, I won't get one.
You won't get one? So I have to say, I love this.
Really?
I love this, and this is a great first step and especially around the sleep, because I'm totally that person that stays up too late. My kids go to sleep. I want the stillness of the night, and so I'll stay up later just getting that nice, the stillness, but then it compromises sleep. And what's great about the Fitbit, not that they're sponsoring me or anything, but it tracks your sleep, and you literally can hold yourself accountable to how much sleep. So since I've been having mine, which is only now, 3 weeks, my sleep has gone up because we're measuring it. Anything we measure, we start to get better at.
Yeah. All right, Life Coach Mary.
And let me throw in one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I want to give people more ways to potentially get back into that self-care thing. And that's, find one or two buddies to hold yourself accountable to and check in. Chances are you want to do it, so find one other guy or gal that is also wanting to up the ante, let's say with exercise. And then just, every day, just check in. Hey, or every 2 days. Hey, here, I got my abs in. I did my abs at night. I did my stretches. I got to the gym. Because when you have somebody holding you accountable, you do tend to do the thing that you want to do for yourself anyway.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Having accountability partners an important part of the process, which is, one of the reasons why people hire folks like you and me as coaches, because, it's part of the accountability process.
Exactly.
Wholesalers, if you want to know more about Life Coach Mary, she's got an MP3 and an ebook she's offering on her website, lifecoachmary.com. Look for 5 keys to inner peace now. Those an exclamation point with capitals now. Life Coach Mary, it is so nice to catch up with you. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and what a great show you've got going on. And I'm just so glad that I could help spread a little bit more inner peace and maybe calm some of that stress out there.
Give it a try, wholesalers. Breathe, damn it.
Breathe.
Wholesalers, we'll be back next time with an episode of the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. You'll find all of our content at wholesalermasterminds.com, and the podcast can be found at iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play.